Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in, come on in. Whew, we have a lot of stuff to unpack in the Bryan Kohlberger case. We're going to be talking about the important information on animal hairs regarding the animal hairs that were found in Bryan Kohlberger's Pullman apartment. We're going to be talking about the arrest of the DoorDash driver. Will this help Bryan Kohlberger's defense team? We're also going to talk about Bryan Kohlberger's parents and his sisters and his first attorney, Jason Labar. And we're going to talk about those phone calls that Bryan Kohlberger made to his father's phone and how that relates back to the bizarre detour that Michael and Bryan Kohlberger took from Pullman, Washington, back to Brightsville, Pennsylvania. So let's get started. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, it's free. It helps me out a lot. I can't get to 50,000 subscribers. Can't get to 50,000 subscribers without your help. Sorry about that. And also, please give this a thumbs up. Come on in and tell me where you are from. So, Bryan Kohlberger is innocent until proven guilty, but this is not a courtroom. I'm not a judge. You're not a judge. So, we are going to be talking about this case. We're going to start off talking about Bryan Kohlberger's family dynamics and what role this played. So, let's talk about Michael Kohlberger. And let me grab this. So, Michael Kohlberger is Bryan's father, and he's now retired. His mother, Marianne, worked as a special ed teacher. Now, both of Bryan's parents were employees of the Pleasant Valley. Doesn't that sound like a nice place to be? Pleasant Valley School District for many years. Now, Michael was a maintenance worker for the school district from 2006 until 2019, according to the New York Post. He spent over a decade working in maintenance for the Pleasant Valley District in Pennsylvania, where he retired. Now, in May of 2023, Michael Kohlberger was subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury in Pennsylvania in relation to the disappearance of Pennsylvania resident Dana Smithers. Now, they did get Bryan Kohlberger some treatment for his medication issues. I'm watching my words here in case you have little ones in the room, but I do want to make it clear that this video is for adults. We know that Bryan Kohlberger, his father did turn Bryan Kohlberger into law enforcement when he stole his sister's cell phone. And if you think about all of the personal information you have on your cell phone, you can see why his father would have done this. Now, Bryan Kohlberger was arrested in 2014 on misdemeanor theft charges for allegedly taking his sister's cell phone and then selling it. So if you know what kind of personal information you have on your personal cell phone, you can see why this would have been really traumatic to have her cell phone with all of her personal contact and personal information just sold by her brother. Now, we know that Bryan Kohlberger traveled with Michael Kohlberger from Pennsylvania to Washington for the Christmas holidays. They drove for around 2,500 miles in the white Hyundai Elantra. And this was prior to Bryan Kohlberger's arrest on December 30th of 2022. Now, we're going to be talking about important information regarding the animal hairs found in Bryan Kohlberger's apartment and the arrest of the DoorDash driver. Will this help or hurt Bryan Kohlberger's defense team? And we're going to talk about his first attorney, Jason Labar. But I want to start off by talking about this detour. So let me pull this up and take this down for a second. So my source on this is Fox News. Come on in and tell me where you're from. So we're going to talk about the detour, and then we are going to dive into the animal hairs. Okay, so Bryan Kohlberger took an unusually long route home with his father, Michael Kohlberger, when they were stopped in this infamous traffic stop. And they were stopped twice on the same day, just a few minutes apart. And I'm going to tell you what I've heard happen, but this is the detour of, let me see if I can make this bigger. I'm not blocking it, so that's good. Okay, this is the detour that you would normally take. This detour right here would be kind of straightforward, but what they did was they came down and took really, hours out of their way. Now, there was a snowstorm coming in, so it could have been related to the snowstorm, but I don't know if most people would detour 8 or 9 hours out of their way just for a snowstorm. But let me pull this up. Okay. But I think it's suspicious. And I'm just wondering, what. And we don't need to watch this video again because we've seen it on the channel. I'll just put their faces on the.
Right up on
So
that
this
man.
Okay. Let me put this back up. So this is the detour that his father and he took. They went way out of their way, and it is interesting. Definitely worth talking about of what the reason would be, why they would be taking this big, long detour for BRYAN KOHBERGER prior to his being arrested. Now, they were pulled over twice. And so I want to talk a little bit more about Michael and Mary Ann KOHBERGER. We know that they've been subpoenaed to testify along with his sisters, Amanda and Melissa. And we're going to talk about Amanda and Melissa and some new information on them in just a moment. But Mary Ann and Michael KOHBERGER, she worked as a special ed teacher, special needs teacher. She was described, or she supported special needs students. Let me say that. She just described by colleagues and those in the community as gentle, compassionate, and dedicated to her work. She retired in 2020. Now, outside of her professional life, Mary Ann occasionally contributed opinion pieces and creative writing to the Pocono Record, which is a local newspaper. One of her submissions was a poem written by her daughter, Amanda, and which Mary Ann sent to the paper in the aftermath of what happened at Uvalde. So I'm not going to go into that at all, but she also reportedly submitted a piece regarding Ted Bundy. She was against capital punishment. So that was another opinion piece that she wrote. Now, Mary and Michael were both subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury in May of 2023. And my understanding is that they were subpoenaed to testify related to the Dana Smithers case. Now, they were present when BRYAN KOHBERGER was arrested. And as I reported to you, they were zip tied along with everybody in that house by law enforcement. And we're going to talk about the important information on animal hairs found in BRYAN KOHBERGER's apartment, the arrest of the DOORDASH driver. Will this help or hurt his defense? I think it's going to help the defense. I'm going to share with you why in just a moment. We're going to talk about BRYAN KOHBERGER's first attorney, Jason Labar, and we're going to continue to deep dive into this bizarre detour. So after his arrest, Michael and Mary and his family issued a public statement expressing sympathy for the victims while urging the public to respect BRYAN's presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. That's a quote from them. Although they were questioned by authorities, many details from their testimony remain undisclosed due to the ongoing legal proceedings. So we don't know. We know they've been subpoenaed. We know his sisters have been subpoenaed also. We don't know what they're going to testify to. Now, in May of 2025, a judge ruled that BRYAN's sister, this is our favorite judge in Ada County, we call him Judge Hip on this channel, he ruled that BRYAN's parents and sisters could attend the trial without affecting their potential role as witnesses. Now, following his arrest, his family released a statement via his public defender showing support for BRYAN, and this was through the New York Post. They said, "We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge on unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray for them." They're talking about the victims here. Each day. But Ann Taylor straight up told us that his parents didn't want to testify, that his family didn't want to cooperate with the prosecution. So it sounds like they've changed their tune a little bit from when this first happened. But we'll see. We'll see. So we're going to talk about Amanda Kohlberger, and we're going to talk about Melissa Kohlberger next. And then we're going to talk about the animal hairs found in BRYAN KOHBERGER's apartment, the arrest of the DoorDash driver. Will this help or hurt BRYAN Kohlberger? I think it will help him. I want to share with you why. And then his first attorney, Jason LaBar. So let's talk about Amanda Kohlberger. So we don't know a whole lot about the Kohlberger's sisters, Mary Ann and Melissa. I'm sorry, Mary Ann is the mother, Amanda and Melissa. But let's talk about what we do know. So Amanda, following his arrest, it was reported that she and her sister Melissa were both removed from their jobs in March of 2023. My source on this is the New York Post. So while it's unclear what Amanda did for a living, my understanding is that she worked somehow in the mental health field. She was once an actress with a single credit in a 2011 horror film called 2 Days Back, according to the IMDb. Now, Amanda has not spoken publicly about BRYAN Kohlberger. Some sources close to the family have claimed that one of the Kohlberger sisters, either Amanda or Melissa, and I think it was Amanda, began suspecting BRYAN Kohlberger of being involved in the crimes on November 13th at the 1122 King Road home. So this was even before he was arrested. Now, allegedly and reportedly, the sister was Amanda. Now, she was suspicious, allegedly, of BRYAN Kohlberger's strange behavior, his use of latex gloves indoors and at all times. Now, we've all seen the traffic stop. Let me pull that back up. We've all seen the traffic stop video, and you can see on this video that he is not wearing gloves. So he's not wearing gloves in this video at all. So, what a lot of people have wondered, what's the deal? Oh, and the video went down. Thinking. Video is playing in picture. I don't know what that means. Let me try refreshing one more time. There it is. Okay. So we've all seen the traffic stop video, and you can see he's not wearing gloves in this. It's just thinking. His dad isn't wearing gloves. He's not wearing gloves. Nobody recording. It's just very short, but I just wanted to show you the receipts that he's not wearing gloves. We have the other traffic stop also, and he's not wearing gloves in that either. You can clearly see BRYAN Kohlberger's hands in the shot. He is not wearing gloves on his hands at all. So this all started when he got back to his parents' Pennsylvania home after he was pulled over twice. And I have to think that after he was pulled over twice, that he would have been very, very concerned, that he would have had, a 4-alarm fire going off in his head as to what really was going on here, because I just don't think that he would have.
This is a probable cause affidavit.
I think there's a reason he suddenly started wearing gloves. Let me just make a short story short.
This is a probable
cause affidavit. There we go. All right, so let's continue on with his sisters, and then we're going to talk about that DoorDash driver, the arrest of the DoorDash driver, and if this is going to help BRYAN Kohlberger, and also the defense attorney, Jason LaBar. But Melissa Kohlberger, so she did, it sounds like, have suspicions about BRYAN. Now, she was also, Amanda Kohlberger is the one that had suspicions about BRYAN. She thought it was weird that he was wearing gloves, and we're going to talk about Melissa too in just a second, including latex gloves indoors, and allegedly he was wearing them all the time. Now, we've seen the traffic stop videos where we do have videos of BRYAN Kohlberger. He was not wearing latex gloves in either the traffic stop at WSU or the 2 traffic stops between Pullman, Washington, and Pennsylvania. So why was he wearing gloves around his parents' house after these 2 traffic stops? Did this get his mind spinning? Because I think he thought he may have thought he got away with it. And when he got pulled over twice within a few minutes of each other, And I think that he, would have been very, very concerned for himself, allegedly, in my opinion. So it's been reported that Amanda even tried to search Bryan Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra, but didn't find anything. And so while the identity of Amanda has not been officially confirmed, many people believe it was Amanda that was suspicious of Bryan Kohberger early on. So if true, her perspective and testimony could play a significant role in Bryan Kohberger's upcoming trial. We know she has been subpoenaed, and her observations may provide some insight into Bryan Kohberger's state of mind in the weeks leading up to his December 30th of 2022 arrest. So we're going to talk about the animal hairs found in Bryan Kohberger's apartment and the arrest of the DoorDash delivery driver in just a second, and his first attorney, Jason Labar. But Melissa, I want to talk about Melissa. She was in a letter to the Pocono Record. Melissa worked as a mental health therapist in New Jersey. We know this because Mary Ann wrote about this, and reportedly Melissa Kohberger was working and was removed from her job in March of 2023. And I'm just wondering if people, that were associated, if she shared an office or rented space with them, if they may have felt like they didn't want to be associated with her, and maybe her clients didn't want to get mental health care from somebody who was related to Bryan Kohberger. I don't know. But the official reasons for her termination are not confirmed. It was widely speculated that her dismissal was linked to what her brother did. So I can imagine it would be very, very hard to get a job as a mental health therapist and somebody have to worry when they make an appointment with you. For her, even personally, as a female, personally, have to worry that when someone makes an appointment with Melissa, that they could be unhinged. They could be, looking to take out their anger on Bryan Kohberger, but take it out on her. Like, she wouldn't know who was going to come through the door. Right. And when you're meeting with a therapist, it tends to be one-on-one. So I would imagine for her, it would be, a very scary situation for her and for her colleagues at work, who maybe were also concerned that some, nut job or kook, thought they were, going to get payback for the victims and bother Melissa Kohberger. So unlike the other members of Bryan Kohberger's family, Melissa is the only one who was not named in the public statement released after Bryan Kohberger's arrest. Now, it could be that she's just trying to stay out of the spotlight. She could have gotten another job and just wants to, work and not be involved. It could just be to protect her job, and she may still fully support her brother, but it could also be that she doesn't support her brother. Let me know if you think that she is supporting her brother. If you think Melissa is supporting Bryan Kohberger, but just doesn't want to put her name on the statement, put a yes in the chat. If you think Melissa is not supporting Bryan Kohberger and didn't put her name on the family statement because she doesn't want to be involved in this, put a no in the chat, and let's see where we are on this. So I do think it's interesting that both the sisters went into mental health fields and that BK got a bachelor's degree in psychology. Now, normally when you see multiple family members getting a degree in psychology, it can mean that they're trying to work through something in their own past. So were there things going on in the Kohberger household leading up to the crimes? So I want to talk about those 3 phone calls that Bryan Kohberger made to Michael on the family lines. And I also want to talk about the animal hair information found in Bryan Kohberger's apartment. Will this help solve the case? Will this be another link for law enforcement to Bryan Kohberger? And the arrest of the DoorDash driver, will this help Bryan Kohberger's defense? And we're going to talk about Jason Labar, Bryan Kohberger's first attorney, in just a moment. So let's consider these 3 phone calls that Bryan Kohberger reportedly made according to NBC, to his family line, which was owned by Michael Kohberger. Now, I don't know if these phone calls were all made to Michael Kohberger, but a lot of people, including myself, had Brian Laundrie, Gabby Petito alarm bells going off. You'll recall that Brian Laundrie, when he contacted his parents after doing away with Gabby, that he promptly called them. He hiked up. He made a phone call, had a long phone conversation, and as soon as they hung up, they immediately hired him an attorney. So a lot of people feel like that this may have been, something like that, because we know that Michael Kohlberger flew out to drive back with BRYAN KOHBERGER. So there's been a lot of concern. Some people have felt like it's suspicious. Some people feel like it's not suspicious, but a lot of people have wondered if that trip, that cross-country trip with Michael and BRYAN KOHBERGER across the country in the white Hyundai Elantra, was this planned by Michael Kohlberger in advance of the November 13th, 2022, 3 phone calls made to family lines by BRYAN KOHBERGER? Or was this plan for Michael Kohlberger to drive back with BRYAN KOHBERGer in the white Hyundai Elantra made after the November 13th, which is the day of the crimes, and those 3 phone calls that were made to the family line? So if the plan to drive back together was made before these 3 phone calls on November 13th, back of 2022 to his father's family line, then I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially if BRYAN KOHBERGer normally called multiple times at that hour. However, if his father made arrangements to fly out to meet BRYAN KOHBERGer after receiving these 3 phone calls on November 13th of 2022, I do think this needs to be looked into further. And we're going to talk about the feds losing BK and Michael Kohlberger, and then we're going to talk about his first attorney. So the FBI, let's do the attorney really quick. So Jason LaBar was the chief public defender. This is BRYAN KOHBERGer's very first attorney. This was the attorney he had in Monroe County in Pennsylvania. And he told his first lawyer on January 1st that Michael flew to Seattle from Pennsylvania. So he flew to Seattle, and then he had to drive from Seattle, Washington to Pennsylvania. And then he traveled to Spokane, and then Michael traveled to Pullman. So that's a lot of, that wasn't just him flying into Pullman and then just driving back with BRYAN. This was Michael having to do multiple legs of a trip. So he flew to Seattle. He then traveled to Spokane, and then he drove to Pullman to pick up BRYAN KOHBERGer for this cross-country trip. So this seems like, in my opinion, and my sourcing on this is Jason LaBar. He told this to NBC News. So I think it's suspicious that he did so much traveling in light of the 3 phone calls that we know about, and making this cross-country trek combined with the detour. So one of these things by itself would probably just be put a pin in that. But when we've got 3 phone calls made to Michael Kohlberger's line on November 13th in the early hours of the morning, and one of them lasted almost 56 minutes. So not short little calls. And then we have Michael Kohlberger flying out and doing a 3-legged hop, traveling to Spokane, going to Seattle, from Pennsylvania to Seattle, from Seattle to Spokane, and Spokane to Pullman, all just to drive back with BRYAN KOHBERGer. And then they are pulled over a couple of times for tailgating on the route back. And then suddenly we have BRYAN KOHBERGer wearing gloves. So let's talk about this cross-country trip, because the feds lost BRYAN and Michael Kohlberger. Let me share this, take this down, and put this up. Okay. So the feds lost them on this trip. Let me check in with Chuck, because I did do a poll. Come on in, tell me where you're from, and let's see what we have on the poll. I'm looking for yeses and nos. Let me see. Mike says no. Thank you so much, and Jazz. Yeah, please leave your DNA on the like button. Susan says no. Natalie says no. No. Virginia says yes. Dabs no. Natalie no. Thanks for modding today, Kathleen. No from M. Barbarossa. Susan says I'm confused. That's okay. No, no. Kathleen says no. No. Thank you, Pamela. And Jess says no. Donna says running late. Hello. Good to see you, Donna. Thanks for modding today. Vicky says no. Sheila says no. Per Anderson says no. And Natalie says, no means the sister is not supporting her brother. So thank you for modding today, Brother Mike. Okay. And Bonnie says, there's so many being protected. I don't think we're being honest ever finding out the truth about these 4 beautiful souls. Oh, I think we're going to find out the truth at the trial. I think we're going to find out the truth. Susan thinks it's a no. Okay. So it seems like most people think that she's not supporting his. And Mike says, yeah, for Thai food. Right. And Susan says, calls the family to set up an alibi. And Daryl says, Dad knows Bryan Kohberger has issues. And Afro Troll said, I heard it was pre-planned prior to the crime. That's what I want to know. I want to know if it was planned ahead of time prior to that phone call. I heard it was pre-planned prior to his being arrested, but I didn't know for sure if it was pre-planned prior to the crime. Christian said, Laundrie and Kohberger let the phrenologist examine the misshapen heads. I know a little bit about that. Okay, Dion says, I think the parents and sisters do love Bryan Kohberger, but I think his sister says, whoa, wait a minute. And Ward said, if the sheaf wasn't found, Bryan Kohberger wouldn't have put trash in Ziploc bags and then into the neighbor's trash, in my opinion. Late night runs all in black. All right, so let's talk about them losing Bryan Kohberger, and then we're going to talk. Thank you so much for doing the poll with me. If you're watching, come on up and talk to me. And so let's talk about the feds losing Bryan Kohberger and Michael Kohberger. So my source on this is the New York Post, and I also am using some sourcing from Newsweek. Yeah, New York Post. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger was driving, and the feds lost him almost as soon as Michael and Bryan started their trip. Now this is according to Howard Blum. So the feds had planned, now the FBI is denying this, but the feds had planned to constantly have eyes on the Bryan Kohberger when he and his dad made that 3-day journey. That's a long drive back from Pullman, Washington to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. And they lost Bryan and his father almost as soon as they pulled out of the parking lot of his Pullman apartment, just 10 miles away from where Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana were done away with. Now, they said it meant for several alarming hours, the chief suspect in a quadruple red rum, I'm watching my words, that had shocked the nation seems to have vanished. So let's talk about this a little bit more. I think that I don't think it's a coincidence that he was pulled over twice. But, Howard Blum said that the law enforcement admitted the potential disastrous slip up with a little bit of embarrassment. I'm going to take this with a pinch of salt because I've a couple times seen Howard Blum like get over his skis on stuff. But he said it would be a disaster, not just professionally, but also for their own peace of mind of the officers' eagerness to arrest Bryan Kohberger. And I do believe they were surveilling him. I just want to make that clear. I do believe that. So I think that they were surveilling him, and the 2 traffic stops, even though they're denying that they were, I think they wanted to see where they were going. And this detour is really bizarre, you guys. So according to Fox News, Bryan Kohberger avoided the most direct route, which I just showed you, which is along Interstate 90 and 94, and it's a 38-hour drive according to Google Maps. So was he just trying to intentionally lose the law enforcement that was following him, or were they just off on a scenic 8 to 9 hour detour drive, or was this just to avoid bad weather? But again, this is a big detour to just go through bad weather, in my opinion. I mean, let's look at this map again. See if I can refresh it. I may have to go back out and come back in on that. So it is a long detour. And this is his Pullman apartment where Bryan Kohberger lived. So this is a very, very long detour, in my opinion. I don't think it would have just been related to weather. I think you would maybe stop. But some people, are saying it was an 8 to 9 hour detour that they completed sometime between December 12th and December 16th. So this seems like a big detour for the weather. Now, the FBI does deny this. And despite some reporting that the FBI lost track of Bryan Kohberger during this leg of the journey, the FBI and law enforcement has denied this. They told Fox News that the FBI is aware of reports detailing alleged FBI surveillance on Bryan Kohberger. These are anonymous sources providing false information to the media. But I do think the traffic stop is interesting. And the fact that there were two of them so close together, again, tells me that, either this, he's very, very unlucky, or they, were surveilling him. But you can.
Hello. How you doing?
You can clearly see that there are no gloves on Bryan Kohberger in this traffic stop. You can see his hands. He's getting in, reaching into his pocket.
Man. He was right up on the back end of that van.
So maybe Bryan Kohberger is just a terrible, terrible driver. And you can see his hand. He just handed the police officer his driver's license, no gloves on, in this video. So I just wanted to show that there are no gloves in that video. And we're going to talk about the DoorDash driver next. But a lot of people feel like they did have him under surveillance, even though they are saying that they didn't. So let's talk about the DoorDash driver. Will this help or hurt Bryan Kohberger? Because she was allegedly impaired. And then we're going to talk about some important information on the animal hairs in Bryan Kohberger's apartment next. So please stay with me. All right, so let's pull this up. So this is Molly. You guys have, some of you guys may have already seen this. Some of you guys may not. My sourcing on this is Officer Axon's channel. If you haven't subscribed, please go over and subscribe to him. But we're just going to watch a little tiny piece of it.
A while ago.
But Molly says that she is the DoorDash driver. And I'm going to put the subtitles on in case anybody needs to see it. And yeah, so anyway, let's back it up a little bit. Just going to watch a little piece of it.
Where do you currently live?
My boyfriend, the address, I explained it to her, but I down my parents' address, my own address, is 40 years ago.
So we're going to go back to just a couple minutes back.
Her friend.
Where did that?
First of all, can you guys hear this? I just want to make sure everybody can hear this. I don't want to play this and then just a quick yes or no. Can you guys hear this when I play this? Is it loud enough or do I need to boost it?
Happen
In Moscow.
in Moscow.
Can you guys hear it? It's a bit low. Okay, let me bump it up. Okay, let me back it up. Okay, so
I have PTSD. I have depression. I have insomnia. My husband was murdered in front of me.
is that better?
He was shot 9 times. Her friend
Where did that happen?
in Moscow.
In Moscow. When was that?
Worley.
Who was your husband?
Charles Michael, he was shot in the
Hmm. And
And now I have to testify.
So she says, now I have to testify. And what she's talking about is the Idaho 4 case. She has to testify. So she was not, it wasn't alcohol that she was drinking. It says a DUI on the thing, but it wasn't. They had her do a breathalyzer test and it wasn't alcohol, but she had taken a 10 milligram hydrocodone pill. So that's pretty strong. I have it on the closed captioning, but it doesn't pick up everything. And I have it boosted at 100%.
in Moscow. When was that? Who was your husband?
Charles and Michael, you shocking me.
Hmm.
Okay, so
And
and now here she says, and now I have to testify. She says, so I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah. So this is the DoorDash driver, you guys. So she's talking about they're asking her like, why, why are you doing this? Is there anything stressing you out? And this is what she tells them. So this is the DoorDash driver. So a lot of people are wondering if Molly came face to face with Bryan Kohlberger. Is this another eyewitness, or at least of the Hyundai Elantra? Let me know what you think, but let me play it once more now that you kind of know what she's saying, because the closed captioning, I have them turned on, but it doesn't quite pick it up.
that happened
In Moscow.
In Moscow?
in Moscow. When was that? Who was your husband?
Charles and Michael, you shocking me.
Hmm. And
And now I have to testify. In another case too, because I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah,
you have to testify in which murder case?
the M case, Schmurder case of the college girls. All right, let's play it back one more time. So I just want to make sure everybody can hear now what she's saying. It is hard to make out, and I have it boosted at 100%.
Michael, you shocking me.
Hmm. And
And now I have to testify in a Schmurder case too,
Because I'm the DoorDash driver, so yeah.
because I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah.
you have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girls.
And the Schmurder case of the college girls.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Bryan.
She says, I'm the DoorDash driver. I saw.
You have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girls.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Bryan.
I saw Bryan there. I'm the DoorDash driver. I saw Bryan there.
College girls.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Bryan.
I'm the DoorDash driver. I saw Bryan there. So she's telling this police officer she's under arrest in Pullman, but she was on hydrocodone, which she did, I guess, have a prescription for. But she's telling them that she saw Bryan. So this is another eyewitness that we did not know about. And if I would have come face to face with something like that and knew I had to testify, I might be, I might be, yeah, please be careful with your choice of words, and mods, please delete anything. But I have, I have this cranked up. All right, let's continue on. So she tells us that she is an eyewitness, that she saw Bryan there.
And you have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girls.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Bryan.
I'm the DoorDash driver. I saw Bryan there. And the police officer is just kind of silent at this point. Just writing it down.
accidents, rapes, abuse.
Okay.
So I think this is really stressful for her. And yeah, so please watch your words. But I think this is so and Dee says she said she saw Bryan Kohlberger that morning. So this was in the wee hours of the morning. So remember, Xana ordered a DoorDash, and the DoorDash was delivered just moments before Bryan Kohlberger. And a lot of people have speculated if the DoorDash delivery driver saw him and if he saw the DoorDash delivery driver. And now we're finding out from the DoorDash delivery driver herself, and her name is Molly, that she did see Bryan. That's what she's telling this lot. Just what she's telling this police officer, that she did see Bryan. So is this? Yeah, she also, yeah, she said that too. Dwight, you're right. Yeah, she did say that. And and I caught some stuff in the Lori Vallow case. I want to go over that in a little bit, but I want to in a different live stream. We're going to do separate that. But yeah, please. It is really hard to understand and hear. That's why I wanted to go through it so you guys could really. I could just share with you what she's saying, and you guys could hear it for yourself. But she does say that she saw Bryan. Lisa is right. She does say that. So I'm going to play it for you one more time, and then we're going to talk about whether this is going to help or hurt Bryan Kohlberger's case. The fact that she was arrested, but also we have another eyewitness now.
Basically, I'm getting blood flow and then your veins in my arms.
Okay.
Because my chest is too large. It's cut off all the nerves. I don't work right all the time. I don't understand.
Did a doctor diagnose that, or?
So she does have some mental health concerns, or medical concerns, not mental health.
My doctor and police, yes, they're all diagnosed.
Okay.
I have PTSD. I have depression. I have insomnia. My husband murdered him.
And I would probably have PTSD too if I had to testify that I saw Bryan Kohlberger leaving the crime scene, and knowing how close she came. Because if he had entered that house and she had been in there, she would not be here. She has to know that.
In front of me, and he shot 9 times.
And she said her husband was also done away in front of her.
Her friend
Where did that happen?
in Moscow.
In Moscow? When was that? Who was your husband?
Charles McNichol, he shot me in the head.
And
then now I have to testify.
She said, now I have to testify in a big murder case too, because I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah.
you have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girl.
Oh.
So she specifically says it's the murder case with the college girls.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Bryan.
I was the DoorDash driver. I saw Bryan there. So she saw him. So I think I would have PTSD also if I were her. So is this going to help the defense team, the fact that she was arrested? Is this going to help Bryan Kohlberger, or is the fact that there's another eyewitness that sees him there, and that is this going to hurt him? Because we didn't know about Molly. So yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know we're doing a wholesome show. We're watching our words. Dab said she had a script for them. A prescription. She may need them. You don't know that. Yeah. And she does have some, she does list off, I'm not going to air all of it. She does list off some medical issues. So, okay. So this is what I feel like. This is what I feel like is, whether I think this is going to help or hurt Bryan Kohlberger. I think it's going to be devastating that there's another eyewitness that can put the Hyundai Elantra, and she said she saw Bryan. So she's an eyewitness to seeing Bryan Kohlberger. This might be bigger than Dylan if he had his mask off and she saw him leaving the crime scene, driving that white Hyundai Elantra. This to me says something absolutely huge. Now, Ann Taylor can call into question her sobriety because of this arrest. But if this was a prescription that she was allowed to be taking, it doesn't mean she's allowed to be driving. But she was not drinking. They did do a breathalyzer, and she was not drinking. So I just want to make that clear. But if it's true that she's an eyewitness and she says she saw BRYAN KOHBERGER, she has to testify. I think that the fact that she was arrested and was, not sober, Ann Taylor can question her sobriety. What did she really see? Just like she'll probably do with Dylan and Bethany. However, it could also really be devastating for the BRYAN KOHBERGER case. And this may be why Ann Taylor is not going to say that the DNA doesn't belong to BRYAN KOHBERGER. And she's had to put him in the car driving around because she's got an eyewitness that, and I shared with you guys that the judge knew more about this case than we did. But if she has an eyewitness, the DoorDash driver that saw him, that's a big problem. And she would have to put him in the car driving around. So, we've had a lot of speculation as to this. And I just want to once again share my sourcing on this is Officer Axon. And if you want to go and subscribe to his channel, you can. And you can watch the whole video on his channel also if you want to see the whole thing. I'm not going to play the whole thing because this is the only thing that's relevant to what we are talking about. But Daryl thinks that Molly will receive a diversion due to their circumstances. Yeah, I think there are some extenuating circumstances. One, she did have a prescription for the medicine. Two, she did have health issues. Three, she wasn't drinking. But Maury says, if she says she's seen BRYAN, then that means it was him. She says BRYAN. She said she didn't say bushy eyebrows. Let's play it one more time. She says she saw BRYAN. Listen to her.
And
now I have to testify.
And you can see this is really causing her a lot of anxiety.
Big murder case too, so yeah, because I'm the DoorDash driver, so yeah.
So yeah, because I'm the DoorDash driver. So yeah.
you have to testify in which murder?
Murder case with the college girls.
The murder case with the college girls.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw BRYAN there.
I'm the DoorDash driver. I saw BRYAN there. Not I saw the car. Not I saw a person wearing a mask. I saw BRYAN there. So I do think that this is really significant information. It's another eyewitness. Dylan is going to be able to, couldn't pick him out of a lineup, but she definitely is going to be able to identify somebody who was 5'10" or taller, who was athletic, but not muscular. This all fits BRYAN KOHBERGER's description. BRYAN KOHBERGER, 6 feet tall, had bushy eyebrows. This also fits BRYAN KOHBERGER's description. But she couldn't pick him out of a lineup. She also was able to say it was a white male. So that's, a lot of things to narrow it down. But DoorDash driver, Molly, is saying that she saw BRYAN. Sarah said, I didn't get how she could have seen him. He was there when she made the delivery, but he was parked a distance behind her in the dark. Well, we don't know if she passed him. We don't know what she saw. We don't know. There's a lot we still don't know. English Rose, she didn't say anything because she's under a gag order. And the only reason she's sharing this is the police officer was asking her, she's under arrest, and asking her why she's, taking these medications. And one of the diagnoses she gives is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is one of the reasons that she's giving as to why she has that post-traumatic stress disorder. Warren says, imagine living with knowing everyone wants the DoorDash driver identity to be plastered all over the media. It's not what she wants. She's being traumatized before and may still be struggling with it. I agree. And a lot of people have tried to, speculate that it was somebody else was the DoorDash driver. But now we know it's Molly. Molly is the DoorDash driver. And she's under a gag order. And the only reason she's telling this, and this video wasn't put out with this information. Somebody found it. Veronica said, I heard she passed all the field sobriety tests also. Yes, they gave, it's on camera. They gave her a breathalyzer. She passed that in the station also. Vicky said, so this isn't when she came forward. This is unrelated, but this is how we have found out as a true crime community about Molly. I don't think we were going to find this out until the trial. Mom says, please do your research on this witness. There's so much to her story besides the prescription. Donna says, yes, prayers for the family and the victims of justice. Mike says, Dion, BK left at 4 a.m. and came back after she left around 4:07. He went in. So he was circling that house. Remember, he circled the neighborhood 5 times and he circled the house 3 times. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. My cat's name says, where did she see him? And we don't know. You need more information. Well, you're going to have to wait until the trial. We're going to have to wait until the trial. We don't know. Kelly says, now, was this the same night? Yes, it was the same night. Was it before they knew who Brian was? Because no, it was not before. This was in 2024. So she was arrested in 2024. And this is what she tells the police officer while she's under arrest. Daryl says, it's causing me anxiety. Yeah, imagine her. And the only reason she's revealing this in this body cam footage is because she understands that, she has to share what her, diagnosis is and the reason that she's taking medications that make it look like she's impaired. So, and Jazz, if somebody's being unkind, just take them out. If you can't be respectful, if you can't control yourself in the chat, then you're just not going to be a good fit for this channel. This channel is for critical thinkers, for people who like to have all the information so they can make up their own mind. Yeah, please be respectful. You can disagree and still be polite about it. So you're welcome, English Rose. Amy said there are many reasons for a DUI, not just alcohol. Right. And but she did pass her field sobriety test. She did pass the alcohol sobriety test. Alice says it has to be way after because he wasn't identified for a long time. This body cam footage, I'm looking at the date here, trying to see if I can see the date. It looks like it was in 2024 when this was shot. So this was well after. So she would have known that she was a witness. She would have had some PTSD, probably ongoing from 2022, when she saw him and knew how close she came. Yeah, it would cause anxiety. Thank you for your compassion and empathy for Molly. Just knowing how close that she came, that she delivered this food to Xana, and Xana was done away with. How close she came and that she saw him, and now she has to testify. And knowing how people that, how some people have been dragged, she has to have seen, how the roommates have been, Dylan and Bethany have been dragged. She has to be seeing all of this, and be afraid, because there's some people who are anxious to impugn anybody else. But I think she will be a good witness. I agree. I think the fact that we have another eyewitness that actually saw Brian, which is what she said, is really important. Mike said, the trial is in 2 months. We will hear then. Yeah, we're not going to know more about what she saw, but Donna's right. It's very important information. And Mountain says, we need to remember this lady is not on trial. Thank you. She is not on trial. Her only crime is that she survived. She delivered the DoorDash after these students were done, before these students were done away with. And she saw Brian. She says she saw Brian and she survived. And she's obviously struggling. But Donna says it's key that BRYAN KOHBERGER was there. She places him. She needs safety. Yeah. He said she also said he was right next to her. All right, let's play it back and listen for that. Let's play it back one more time.
I told us to go somewhere.
I saw Brian there. And the DoorDash delivery driver, I saw Brian there. I was right next to him. Okay, now let's listen to all of it in full.
Just 2 hours. How about you don't work right all the time?
Did a doctor diagnose that, or?
I want to go back because I got.
Okay.
Just 2 hours. How about you don't work right all the time?
Did a doctor diagnose that, or?
My doctor includes, yes, they're all diagnosed.
Okay.
I have PTSD.
I had PTSD. I bet she did. Holy
I
moly.
have depression.
I have depression. I had depression.
My husband was murdered in front of me. He was shot 9 times.
Her husband was done away in front of her, shot multiple times.
Her friend
Where did that happen?
in Moscow.
In Moscow? When was that?
Poorly.
Who was your husband?
Charles NICHOL, he was shot me with it.
Hmm. And
And then now I have to testify.
And now I have to testify
Big murder case too, so yeah, because I'm
in a big schmurder case too, because yeah, I'm the
a DoorDash driver. So
DoorDash driver.
you have to testify in which murder case?
murder case with the college girl.
Oh.
She specifically says the schmurder case with the college girls.
My DoorDash driver, I saw Brian.
And the DoorDash driver, I saw Brian there. I parked right next to him. And the police officer gets really quiet at this point. So I want to give you guys the date on this body cam footage if I can. Let me just see if I can see. It's 2024. So it was September. It looks like it was 2024, May 9th of 2024, I believe. And then that's it. That's her. That's Molly. So I feel really badly for her. I think she's been through heck. And I have a lot of empathy for her. Daryl thinks he's going to shave off his eyebrows. I think they'll be very carefully coiffed, you guys. Kathleen said this will help convict Bryan Kohberger. The fact that she said, I saw Brian, I parked right next to him. I think that's pretty, I think you're right. Tinsel says, why did the state release this? They didn't. This was released on the channel that I just shared with you. And he just released it as body cam. All he does is body cam footage, body cam footage, body cam footage. That's all he does is body cam footage. So, yeah. I'll link his channel for you in the description below if you want to go watch the whole thing. Teresa said this arrest is a full 2 years after the crime. Yeah, exactly. Mary says, I saw her saying she parked next to him, allegedly. That's what she said. You're right. She said, I saw him. I parked right next to him. Karen thinks BK is cooked. Mike said, I think he was parked on the hillside and she parked in the lot almost face to face. Lainey said, according to DT, who talked with someone close to her, he went by staring at the house and she saw Xana in the second floor window. Allison says she could have parked up on the hill. We don't know. DR said they were planted. I don't know what that is about. Teresa said, I believe this video will not be admissible for the trial. Yeah, it might not be. It might not be. Vera says, she seems nice. I pray she stays safe. Natalie said, they will probably accuse her of being messed up. Yeah, I think Ann Taylor will try. if this is allowed in, if this is considered relevant. I don't know. This is, after she's been through this trauma. So I don't know. DDD park, DoorDash driver parked behind the house, apparently. Yeah, please don't mention any other content creators, good or bad. I just like to stay out of the drama. Eve Love God, thank you so much for being a channel member for 1 year. Happy 1 year anniversary. And I really appreciate your being a channel member. Thank you so much. And Jazz, thank you for gifting a Reporter Room membership. If you receive that membership, please make sure you tell Njaz thank you and let me know who you are. Thank you, Brother Mike, for gifting a $1.99 super sticker. That is so nice of you. I will be using that for editing equipment. Thank you so much for your generosity and kindness. Thank you, Donna, for the $1.99 super sticker. I will be putting that toward editing equipment. Thank you for your kindness and your generosity, Donna. And thank you, Susan, for the 99-cent super sticker. I really appreciate your support and your kindness. She says, I wonder if she can no longer do DoorDash for her income. She took the worst shift possible because she had to. Yeah, could be. I mean, I don't think I would want to do DoorDash after that. What do you guys think? And Natalie, thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. Natalie, I really appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. So let's do a poll. Do you think that this other eyewitness is going to, combined with the fact that she did, was pulled over for being impaired, do you think she is going to help or hurt BRYAN KOHBERGER's defense? Is she going to help BRYAN KOHBERGER's defense, the fact that she's saying she saw him, or is it going to hurt BRYAN KOHBERGER? Isn't MDMA, aka Molly? Well, we'll find out. Veronica says, just the fight now that people know who, I wonder if they will put her in protective custody until the trial. Well, they haven't put anybody else in, so I don't think so. Penelope says, DoorDash lady was pulled over for expired registration. I feel bad for her. I do too. She survived BRYAN KOHBERGER. Now she has to get through this trial. JP says, could be a chance that KOHBERGER was the lookout. It would explain all the driving. I have not found any evidence that there was anybody else involved. If I did, I would bring it to you. Tinsel said the state are not being considerate by releasing this with her medical information because she's a state witness. Well, I don't know if they even were aware of this. This was found by true crime sleuths. Allison said her husband was shot. They were helping a friend to change the locks on her door. A strange boyfriend came upon them. Faraday said, I believe BK was parked right there on the road next to Bethany Funk's window. And we know Bethany Funk also. And I know people have come in and said that, I'm a liar when I refused to say there were tunnels under the house. I told you guys that I didn't believe there was tunnels under the house. I got called a liar. I told you guys that I, thought that Bethany Funk, according to sources, did see somebody dropping something into a bag outside the house. It doesn't mean she saw Brian's face, but she saw someone dropping something into a bag. We'll see, if I could be wrong. Elborica doesn't think she's credible. I think in this moment, I can see why you would say that, but I'm just wondering cumulatively what the jury's going to think, because things are starting to pile up. Yeah, pity. Kiki said, I've heard that she's not supporting him. I'm not sure who she is, Kiki, if you want to clarify that. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your support. From Njaz, DM says, this doesn't belong in the trial. In my opinion, it's 2 years after the crime. I agree. And the judge may decide that he's not going to let this in. But I think her testimony for sure will be in. If she had any arrests before, maybe that could be. But I don't even know if this stuck because, like I said, she passed the breathalyzer. But it's very relevant, Christian. Teresa said, you seem like you're not understanding things, including impeaching witnesses. Oh, she's talking to somebody else. Yeah, that's fine. Just use medication. You don't even use the A word. Stormy on the North Route. Happy anniversary, says Donna. KJ says, no way this body cam gets admitted. It's not relevant to the trial. And I think it's the fact that they weren't going to admit BRYAN KOHBERGER's body cam footage from August 21st. that we haven't seen yet, where he's near the 1122 King Road home. Initially, the Latah County judge, Don Judge, said no, they weren't going to admit that. And the prosecution came back and said, well, we just want to admit it to identify that it is Bryan Kohlberger and it is his vehicle. And then it got in. The fact that they had trouble getting that in makes me wonder if the defense would be able to get this in or not. So yeah, great point. Annie says, hi, Jessica, I'm late. Yeah, you can back up the chat. Common says, so if you're late, always know you can always rewind the chat and start from the beginning. And you know, Common says, even if the recording isn't admissible, can't she testify as a witness? I don't think this recording will be admissible, but but she is testifying. She said, I'm the DoorDash driver. I have to testify. So she knows she's testifying. Nelson said, Hope Ann Taylor doesn't say she did it. Yeah, this could be her alternative suspect, but she's going to have evidence. And if the DoorDash driver was seen on any of the cameras driving away from the crime scene, you know, that's the end of that. As we know, they pulled there's 12 hours of video footage. And I'm assuming some of that law enforcement would want to rule out the DoorDash driver. And how would you do that? You would show that she was leaving and where she went next. I think she is credible. Veronica said, I meant to say, I'm just wondering up in my post there, it did come up right. So that's okay. Daryl said, it's admissible for impeachment. Tina said, still praying for the unalivers. Kay said, HC is considered a week up. Oh, yeah, some use them. Okay, I don't know about that. Thank you for modding today, Christy. Thank you for modding today, Mike. Mike says, this video is interesting. Nothing to do with the trial. Her testimony will be separate. Well, we definitely learned something new from the video, and that is that she did see Bryan. She was parked right next to him. Me, myself, and I says, I hope that the victims and the family sue the my understanding is that the roommates have lawyers already. Laura says yes. Virgil said also possible. There's Kopakas in Colorado. I haven't found any links between Brent Kopaka and Bryan Kohlberger. Welcome, Annie, as a brand new Reporter Room channel member. Thank you so much for being part of the Reporter Room family. And Allison, thank you for the $4.99 super sticker. She said, the fact that this is coming out, folks, there is so much we don't know. I was assuming that the DoorDash driver was a guy, was a male. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And we're going to talk about the dog hairs next. Before we get into the dog hair, because I want to talk about that next, I do want to say thank you to our producers. So we're not done. We're going to talk about the dog hair. And Jazz, Sasha, Angel, George Brown, Pepper, and Christy Ballantyne. Thank you to our channel members. If you would like your name to appear just like this, please consider hitting the join button. So we're going to talk about some important information about the animal hairs that were found in Bryan Kohlberger's Pullman apartment. Can animal hairs link a suspect to a crime scene via the transfer of animal hairs on victims' clothing or into the car? We know that there were pet hairs found in the Pullman, Washington apartment. And will these link back to Kaylee's dog, Murphy, the golden doodle? They don't shed a lot, but they do shed some. And it doesn't mean he had contact with Murphy. He could have just come into contact with Kaylee and Maddie, who would have had hairs on them from playing with Murphy. And I also want to give super thanks and coffee gratitude to Brother Mike and Jazz, Donna Bravo, Leslie, Keep It Real, gifted channel memberships. This is for the last live stream. Njaz, Vicky G, Patricia, and Njaz. And I left off Kat. Kat, thank you so much for last week's super thanks. So let's continue on. I do want to talk about the dog hair and how this could relate to Bryan Kohlberger. Okay, so there's just so much we don't know. So animal hairs can link a suspect to a crime scene through the transfer of animal hairs on victims' clothing. Now, if this animal hair that was found at Bryan Kohlberger's Pullman apartment links back to Murphy the dog, this would be another link between Bryan Kohlberger and Murphy. Now, DNA analysis can be used. Let's look at this together. DNA analysis can be used They've had a bird provide DNA in a 2001 case. They had a mother from a cat, the white cat in Beamish's home, linked back. They had another and this was a different case. This was in 1994. Then they had a 2001 case of a 7-year-old Daniela Van Dam who disappeared without a trace. And they were able to identify a neighbor, David Westerfield, and they were able to link him with dog hair that was attached to Daniela's pajamas. He had a dog, and he transferred the dog hair onto Daniela. A parrot has actually recited "Don't shoot." So what I did was look to see other cases that have been solved with pets, and in this case, some of them were done, much later. So let's talk about the dog hair in this case. So dog hair can can be used to analyze and identify the dog species and the breed, and even individual profiles. If they have a strand that comes with a little follicle attached, they can extract a mitochondrial DNA, and nuclear DNA from hair is difficult to extract and analyze, but it can help link suspects to crimes, particularly when the suspect or the victim has a dog. And in this case, we know that Kaylee had a dog, a Labradoodle that she owned with Jack DeCour named Murphy. Now, the animal hands found in BK's Pullman apartment could be huge. We know that according to the documents that the police went in looking for into BRYAN KOHBERGER's apartment, that they were looking for hair. They found some human strands of hair, which those could just be Brian's, but it could link back. But it could also be related to the WSU colleague that had been to his apartment too. But if it links back to, if this animal hair that they found links back to Murphy the dog, that to me will be another big strong piece of evidence. Because why in the world, or how in the world, would he have hair from Murphy the dog in his Pullman apartment? So Kaylee's dog was shared with Jack DeCour, and many people believe that BK is responsible for these crimes, and while other people feel that he is innocent. So no matter what you're feeling, just please respect everybody, and just know that it's okay to have different opinions. This is a Critical Thinkers channel. We're not going to all agree on every single case. In fact, right after this live stream is done, I'm heading over and I'm going to do Lori Vallow, because I found out some stuff. Lori Vallow, I don't think that Charles Vallow was her first time she did away with somebody. I think she's a Black widow, and I'm going to share with you why. And we're also going to talk about Brandon Boudreau's ex-wife, Melanie Boudreau. Is she under investigation now? So Carol said, Van Dam was a case that was local to me at the time. Oh, wow. Yeah, we do have a nice chat. Tinsel says, you're right, DM. Tinsel says, I think it's unlikely that we wouldn't know if there was more of BK's DNA at the scene, but anything is possible. Yeah, we didn't know that the DoorDash driver saw him. I think there's still stuff we don't know. Hey, Christine, thanks for modding today. Dion says, I don't think that we have to see all of the evidence yet. Princess says his sisters both lost their jobs because of BK's alleged actions, and she knew something was up even before she saw him separating the trash with the gloves on. Wayne said the hair didn't match to Murphy. We would have heard about it by now. How? How would we have heard about it? There's a gag order in the case. We didn't even know the DoorDash driver's name until this weekend. So me, myself, and I says, if BK was innocent, or if the judge or any evidence leading or insinuates he could be innocent, he wouldn't be in jail waiting for his trial. My cat says, I didn't think they were trying to offend you. Nicole says, Christine, welcome. You missed a bit, but look back. Yeah, you can back up the chat. Okay, sounds like there's a disagreement. Toss Penny said, I think he snooped through their vehicles at night weeks ahead of time, and their cars would be loaded with dog hair picked up and brought it home unknowingly. Or, he lost that knife sheath in a struggle. I do believe that Maddie and Kaylee, I don't know if Maddie fought back, but I think Kaylee did, just in light of what Steve Gonzalez has told her. So it's possible that while he was interacting with Maddie and Kaylee, I'm watching my words here. I don't want to sensationalize this. That he could have, that the dog hair could have transferred onto him at that point too. So yeah, I don't know. Donna says there's so much more that we don't know. This is a very tragic case. It is. Yeah, and just says all civilly expressed comments are welcome. Yep, and just please, we can all disagree. We're not going to all agree on every case, but we can do it in a way that's respectful with each other. I think that's important, right? Because in a year from now, we're going to be talking about a completely different case. Well, in a couple of minutes, we're going to be talking about a different case. I'm going to be talking about the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Melanie Boudreau. And I don't think this was the first time Lori did this. And I want to share with you why. I think she did this before. I think she's a Black Widow before she met Chad Daybell even. So we're going to be talking about different cases. And I am not leaning into Buddy the dog right now. I am hearing, and I'm trying to get independent confirmation on it, but I'm hearing that the Buddy the dog may not be related to BRYAN KOHBERGER, that they may know that who did it. So I am waiting. I put in a FOIA request. I'm waiting to get it. And then as soon as I have it, I will bring it to you. Susan says, sounds cool, Jen. We'll be there. I'm leaning toward Murphy the dog. And I also think that that's a stronger case for the prosecution. If they can link Murphy the dog to BRYAN KOHBERGER, that's another connection. Sharman says, I wonder if he didn't even see her clearly with her saying that BK was focused on the house. She would be, in my opinion, terrified. He would search for her and take care of the loose end. Yeah. I wonder if she was able to pick him out of a lineup. If the roommates, if Dylan wasn't able to, was she able to? Thank you so much, Nicole. If you gave a thumbs up, let me know what number of thumbs up you are. Are you number 110? What number are you? Robbie said 1,000 watching, only 380 likes. Please hit the thumbs up button. Yeah, please do it. It's free and it helps me out with the algorithm. Virgil says, I don't believe Dylan's testimony at all. This woman is highly questionable, coerced. Well, we'll see what the jury decides. Pip says, I really hope the trial proceeds on time for the victims and their families. There's so much we don't know. Love My Puppy says, this is the first time I've been on your channel. I really enjoyed the educated conversation and I subscribe. Thank you so much, Love My Puppies, and welcome to the Reporter Room family. We're going to be watching this trial together. I'm going to air the whole thing. Me, Myself, and I says, I think the video we have not seen because of a lot of the door rings. Blackout said, I think BK knew she saw him. That's why he went down and did his 3-point turn after the dasher left. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting theory. Thank you, Mike. Avocado said, BK is toast. Cyborg Mama says, gag order. Yeah, funny how people forget about that. Yeah, we haven't seen the evidence, and it's not because anybody's hiding anything from you. BRYAN KOHBERGER's attorneys requested a gag order to protect BRYAN KOHBERGER's right to a fair trial. So the prosecution agreed to this, and the judge, the magistrate judge, prior to Judge John Judge, put the gag order in place. Was it too extensive? Yes, because in my opinion, it should not have included the victims and their families. And the judge has told us that Dylan and Bethany are victims in this case. And remember, this judge has seen more evidence than we have seen. So if he is telling us that Dylan and Bethany are victims, I think we should take his word for it. He's seen a lot more than we have seen. We didn't even know about Molly and what she saw until this weekend. Veronica Zero says, I wonder if BK didn't have a mask on when she saw him. I don't know. She said she saw BRYAN, so I don't know. Thank you for sharing your opinion on this, Alberica. Juliana says, please remember to give credit and truth. For what? I'm not really sure for what. I gave credit to the content creator that posted this, and I'm not saying that she didn't do anything, but the content creator that posted this is Not that one. This comes, maybe she found it. I don't know. Officer Axon posted it. But anyway, I don't know anything about that. So I'm not, I don't know anything about that. Maybe she's the one that found it initially. I just saw it trending on Twitter. Deception says, I was thinking that the hair didn't match Murphy nor Buddy, but the reason for Buddy is because he would have had an added charge for Buddy. Good point. Desert Sunset says, can't wait till Wednesday when they rule when the trial will be. Yeah, I can't wait either. Please don't talk about other content creators. Please don't do that. Please don't do that, you guys. Even I know you guys have content creators you like and you don't like, but please don't do it. I don't want to cause any drama with anybody else. I credited the person that posted the video, which is Officer Axon. And I will link this, his channel in the description below so you can subscribe to him. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. I just want to say thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. We will be doing another live once we find out whether the trial has been delayed or not. So make sure you subscribe and hit your notification bells so you don't miss an upload or a new video. And also, we're going to be going over right now to talk about Lori Vallow and the fact that I believe she was a Black Widow before this. We're also going to talk about Melanie Blue. Sorry, we're going to talk about Melanie Boudreau Pawlowski, who was Brandon's former wife. Is she under investigation? Is she going to be indicted next? We have a lot to unpack, but I think Lori Vallow did crimes like this before she met Chad Daybell. I think that's significant. So we're going to talk about that next. So just follow me over and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.